Elite design, better comfort, more grip. Our new Pure Grip Socks Elite add engineered compression, an anti-blister base, and more grip to keep you locked in. Available now at puregripsocks.com.
I think what makes trying a new pair of football boots so exciting is the unknown. How do they fit? How do they feel? How comfortable are they? Does any of the technology in the marketing actually work? Where it's this curiosity that really continues to drive the football boot industry forward, because if we came to a final conclusion that a certain pair of football boots was perfect, we'd all wear it and we'd never ask for anything new. Where we've seen it time and time again, where a great pair of football boots gets replaced by something new, where the changes they've made are sometimes better and sometimes worse, but in general, more so just a variation of a design rather than something that is truly quote unquote improved. It's a concept I've talked about on this channel so many times before: change for the sake of change. An ideology that the boots in these boxes have managed to completely ignore, which is admirable. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the 40th anniversary colorway of the made in Japan Mizuno Morelia 2. A full kangaroo leather upper in ruby red with, of course, that signature made in Japan quality. It's a limited edition release that does actually see a couple minute differences compared to other colorways, which we'll talk about in this video. However, despite the specialness of this football boot, there is no premium to the price tag, and that they still retail for the usual $280. Obviously not cheap, but arguably worth every penny. And because I got them a little bit late and never ended up making a video on them, here is also the Innovation Pack colorway of the Mizuno Morelia 2. Also made in Japan in this dark obsidian colorway that might come across as a blackout in video, but in person it's like a really dark, almost navy blue. And while they do appear to be the normal kangaroo leather, these are actually made from wagyu cow leather, which is kind of funny because this is part of the Innovation Pack, and Mizuno have actually done this before on the Morelia 2 with their previous wagyu leather pack. So by definition, this isn't exactly innovative given that they've done it before, but they're still very cool football boots, and I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at some of the difference between these two. And given that this is limited edition, unlike the rest of the pack that has sold out, these are actually still available. However, they're a little bit more expensive, retailing for $300. Where really quickly before we keep going, just because I know people will continue to ask down in the comment section, especially on a video like this, Adler is a brand that I do intend on bringing into review. I'm working on that hopefully in the near future. And Asics is another one of those brands a lot of you guys have been requesting to see reviews of. I am also working on getting some of those in, as availability looks to hopefully be growing and expanding back into North America, because back in the day you could get Asics football boots here, which is also at a time when I used to review Asics. It's funny that now people are super interested when back then nobody really cared, but that's besides the point. Nonetheless, reviews coming soon, and maybe this also kind of segues into something that I did want to ask you guys as well. Would you be interested in, let's say, a monthly Q&A video? Where of course new content goes out every day on this channel, but it's hard for me to get to every single topic that you guys are asking about. A Q&A video could potentially facilitate that. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know down in the comment section. And with that little side tangent out of the way, let's get back into talking about what I think is honestly the most comfortable football boot on the market, of the ones that I've personally tried, of course. Oh, and by the way, if you are interested in either of these Morelias before they're completely sold out, check out the links down below. They're available there. Now, if you're a leather football boot enthusiast, you are probably so curious to know which of these two football boots is softer, because obviously the kangaroo leather on a pair of Morelia 2s in made in Japan form are just some of the softest football boots on the market. And what I like about this leather in particular is not only is it super soft, which obviously feels great against your foot and also offers a fantastic touch on the ball, it does a nice job of actually holding its structure. And I'm not sure if that's down to the stitching, I'm not sure if that's down to the liner, I'm not sure if that's just down to the quality of materials that Mizuno tends to use. Obviously you do have that reinforcement movement of the synthetic Mizuno Runbird running through the midfoot, but in general, for as soft as these are, they don't overstretch and they actually hold their shape really nicely. So if your question is which of these two should you buy if you're concerned about the longevity of the product, I definitely think Kangaroo leather is the safer bet. Having said that, the wagyu leather on this innovation pack colorway is actually a little bit softer, and it's really difficult to describe the difference because at the end of the day it is kind of a small one, but I would say that the skin on the surface of the leather, the part that you can actually see and feel, seems to be thinner than what you have on the K leather, and the material itself in general just seems to be a slightly more plush texture where it's a little bit thicker, but it's also just more pillowy soft, if that makes any sense. And we're talking about what is a 10 out of 10 compared to a 10.5 out of 10. It's really comparing two football boots that are pretty much as soft as it gets as far as leather is concerned, but it also kind of puts to rest something that I've been arguing for a very long time now, where again, this is kind of an extreme example. Wagyu cow leather is not something that we regularly see offered on football boots, but with all these brands transitioning away from kangaroo leather that they've marketed as being the greatest thing ever in the world of football boots, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a downgrade in quality. There are different quality levels to kangaroo leather, just as there are different quality levels to cow leather. It just depends on the specific quality of the materials they're using for that given football boot. Whether it's cow or kangaroo though, Mizuno does it as well as just about anybody. Moving on, a couple interesting things to note about the 40th anniversary colorway, aside from this ruby red color just looking incredibly premium and honestly just expensive in person. They actually have some construction differences compared to other Morelia 2 colorways, where I recently misspoke in a video talking about the top 10 most comfortable football boots, calling this wagyu pair, which is the pair that I showed, kangaroo leather. Obviously, we just talked about it. That is not necessarily the case, but in all honesty, I just wanted to put them in the video and wasn't really thinking. But in that video, I talked about wishing that the heel liner was more of a suede type material rather than kind of this smoother synthetic leather. On this 40th anniversary colorway, as you can see, it's gone to this gray suede material, which is very reminiscent of what you're going to find in the Morelia Neo series. However, it lines the entirety of the heel as well as the sides of the ankle and is honestly just the softest material ever. That also does a really good job of locking your heel in place. This to me, it's a minor change, but a major difference in terms of feel. I love this about the 40th anniversary colorway. Hopefully this is a change that they stick with when it comes to future colorways, assuming that we're not getting a Morelia 3 anytime soon. Another unexpected change for this 40th anniversary colorway that could be viewed as a negative one is if you look at the tip of the toe, there are 3 little indentations for rivets. And if you look at the heel, there are once again 3 indentations where there is no rivet. However, if you look at a normal colorway, you have 3 black rivets at the tip of the toe and 3 black rivets at the heel. Those are basically there to strengthen the bond between the upper and the sole plate. It's one of the signatures of the Mizuno Morelia and generally just kind of an old school element that we don't see in football boots that often, but kind of some reinsurance or peace of mind that while you are paying a premium, these boots are built to last. Why this 40th anniversary colorway doesn't have the rivets, I have absolutely no clue. It's not something that Mizuno have addressed as it relates to the 40th anniversary colorway pack in general, and definitely I could view this as a potential negative for somebody looking to spend $280 on a pair of these football boots. However, given Mizuno's track record of quality, especially as it relates to their Made in Japan product line, if you are planning on buying a pair of premium leather football boots, I don't think there's any pair that I would bet on to last longer than these right here. Having said that, another kind of side note as it relates to durability, because I've seen quite a few comments about this as well, durability is unpredictable. If I wear these boots for 3 months and you wear these boots for 3 months and that guy wears the same boots for 3 months and we all play on the same team and play for the same amount of time, all three of those football boots are going to wear differently, and if one breaks, it doesn't mean the other two are going to break in the exact same way in the same amount of time. There are just so many variables that factor into how long a pair of football boots are going to last, and like I said, it's pretty much anybody's guess as to whether or not having no rivets versus having rivets is going to make any noticeable difference in the longevity of the product. And then to add to that, if you do have a durability issue, that's why major brands offer a manufacturer's warranty. So should these break prematurely, you should be able to contact the retailer you got them from or Mizuno directly within your country, and they should sort you out with a refund or a replacement pair. This is also part of the reason why I try to review football boots that tend to be available globally or at least domestically to the majority of my viewers, because if you go and spend a premium on a pair of football boots that aren't readily available in your country, should something go wrong with them, unfortunately, making a warranty claim is going to be very difficult, if not impossible. Just something to think about. But like I always say, if the boots aren't comfortable, then nothing else matters, and I don't think anything is more comfortable out of readily available pretty much everywhere football boots than a pair of made in Japan Mizuno Morelia 2s, especially with this suede liner. I just think these are pretty much as close to perfect, at least for me, as you can possibly find. Of course, comfort is a subjective thing, and if you like that squeeze your foot sensation that something along the lines of a Mercurial might provide, these obviously are not going to be for you. But if you've always found that your football boots don't feel good on your feet, I would urge you to try something with a full leather upper, and if the budget allows for it, a made in Japan Morelia 2, because like I said, this is the gold standard as far as fit, softness, quality of materials, and overall comfort is concerned. Having said that, Mizuno, like a lot of big brands right now, I would argue still makes their best stuff the most limited, where if given the choice to wear anything from Mizuno, while I really do like the Morelia 2s, I'd still probably want to wear a Rebula Cup. I think this version of the football boot with the Neo sole plate that we've gotten a couple times is also arguably a little bit better, especially depending on the types of fields you're going to be using them on. But as a readily available product, these are top notch and genuinely a go-to for me personally when I'm not testing out new boots and just want to be comfortable. The softness, the touch, the fit, the comfort, it really is not just one of the best currently on the market, but one of the best that I've ever tried. Where if you are looking to get a pair for yourself, from a width perspective, because of that nice deep central lacing system, there is so much adjustability to these boots. I suppose if you had exceptionally narrow feet, these might be a little bit too wide, but for the vast majority, they should work really nicely. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit is pretty well perfect. Of course, they're leather, they are going to stretch a little bit. Mine are pretty much as snug as I could possibly get them in this 9.5, so going down half a size isn't necessarily an option. But if the boots you're currently wearing are a little bit big, going down half a size isn't necessarily a bad idea, because as you wear them in, the leather will stretch a little bit and form to the exact shape of your feet. But in general, true to size for the vast majority is probably the way to go. And again, if comfort is the priority, look no further.